Hello, my friend. Jess M. Cutler here, back again for another Encourage episode on the ENSPIRES podcast. So today is going to be a little different than normal and hopefully a little more fun. Hopefully do exactly what this podcast series is meant to do and encourage you, or better yet, put courage in you. So I'm crafting this message after a few months of some pretty involved events, a pretty involved event season. Followed up, kind of ended with a week in Orlando at the Maxwell Leadership Conference. These past few weeks especially have been what I deem the hardest of the year. They have required every bit of brain power, drop of creativity, problem-solving abilities, patience, and spiritual, emotional, and physical energy that I can muster. Like, I literally go from feeling like I'm on top of the world and the GOAT, the greatest of all time event designer, to feeling like I have been run over by a Mack truck. So, as I've had a chance to sort of slow down and reflect on this past event season and hear some of the advice of some of the greatest leaders, I thought it would be fun to put together kind of my own list of kind of the 5 lessons that I feel like you have to learn and know in order to grow. So, let's get started. Lesson 1, and I heard it over and over through my Maxwell Leadership certification and training, and I have found it so true. It says, start with what you do know, so what you don't know can be revealed to you. Now, maybe you're a risk taker and you hear that advice and you think, well, duh, like how else would you learn? And this is my husband. He's like a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. And if this is what you think, this lesson isn't for you. Good for you. You already know this. You are far ahead of the class. But this lesson in particular is for all my fellow perfectionists and planners out there that want to have everything all figured out before they begin. Trust me, I feel you. I know your pain. I have always been a ready, aim, tweak, aim, tweak, aim, tweak, aim, tweak, aim. And then if I feel like everything's perfect, then fire kind of gal. But after years of learning and growing and trying new things, what I have come to realize, if you wait until the moment you have everything planned out, practiced, and perfected, you will never actually begin. There is nothing that I have ever started out and continued to do that I don't look back on and I think, who was that baby and what was she doing? I mean, when I look back on some of my very first events that I designed, like, I'm not embarrassed. I mean, let me think about that. Am I embarrassed? I don't know. They definitely make me laugh. Okay, maybe I'm a little embarrassed now, but I wasn't then. I was very proud of those designs because it was all I knew. I mean, that was my best designs. Like, that was me giving my best. And it's really all I knew at the time. Like, when I first started designing events, I thought upgrading event meant, using a colored tablecloth instead of white, or using a floral centerpiece instead of a candle. I had no idea that there were hundreds of different textures of linens, let alone colors and patterns. And then, don't even get me started with lighting and interactives and props and production elements. I mean, I had to learn all that. Some vendor had to say, hey, Jess, have you ever thought about adding soft seating furniture to a reception? For me to be like, oh, wow, I didn't know that you could add furniture to a ballroom for just a few hours. Like, how do I do that? I mean, I will never forget when someone came to me with a $17,000 budget. And I remember thinking, how in the world am I going to spend all this person's money? The event itself took me forever to decide because I was still at the point in my career where I was still trying to learn what upgrades and options were even available. But now, if someone comes to me with $17,000, I'm like, yeah, that's a good budget. Like, what 3 things would you like to include? And it's not to be like, you can't have more, but for me, it's kind of like, do you want quality over quantity or quantity over quality? Like, you kind of have to give me direction. Like, I have learned some secrets to creating some wow-worthy events, but even as I see other event designs and event designers, like, I know I still have a long way to go. But the options and the opportunities that I've learned to include in events have expanded and increased, tenfold, just by continuing to do my best based on what I know and then letting what I don't know reveal itself to me. So just recently, and it's about the same time every single year, I get to design 2 back-to-back events with a decor budget ranging well into the multiple 6-figure range, which at that point I am no longer limited by budget, just by my imagination. And y'all just know I got a big imagination and a stellar Pinterest board. If you follow our socials, I'm at jessmcutler.inspires, or Invents, which is at Invent Planner, ENVENTPLANNER, Invent Planner. We're going to be sharing some gorgeous, and I do mean creatively stunning, how in the world did they think of that kind of stuff, pictures from these particular events. And let me be very, very clear. I could not have done any of these designs without the hard work and partnerships of a large team of vendors consisting of multiple companies, one of which being my very own Invents team, who worked tirelessly to build some of these custom dreamed pieces. So I couldn't have done any of it without them. But on the design side, now that's kind of where I took lead there. I've been working with this group for like 9 years, and their very first budget was $13,000. And my designs were very humbling, to say the very least. So I also want to share on those platforms just some of those photos of when I started and when we started working together, because I want you to be encouraged in whatever career path you choose to see that even the best of the best had to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. There was a time when that person did something that they had never done before, and they grew based off the little bit of curiosity and figure out ability they had. So you have to start with what you do know in order to figure out what you don't know. Because guess what? You don't know what you don't know. And until you start figuring out what you don't know, then you won't figure out what you know. So when you figure out what you do need to know, the more you'll realize there's so much more that you don't know. So don't ask me to repeat any of that again. But I'm going to give you permission to anyone out there that needs it today that it's okay to not know everything about what you're trying to do or where you're trying to go. We all start somewhere not knowing where we're going. But the more we try, the more we fail. And the more we fail, the faster we learn. And the faster we learn, the better we become. That is the essence of growth. Okay. Lesson 2. Whew. Don't be afraid to ask more questions. I will say each of these lessons really build on each other, because guess what? If you don't know what you don't know, you will never discover what you need to know if you don't learn to ask more questions. Now, I am as guilty as the next person in not wanting to ask too many questions because, of course, I don't want to look like an idiot. But what I have learned time and time again is that if I don't ask more questions, then I look like an idiot anyways. At least with an abundance of information, I have a better chance of looking like I know what's going on, or at least being helpful, than just, walking around as someone who literally knows nothing. Early on in my career, I started as a convention service manager, which is a person in the hotel that basically plans the events for their meeting and their ballroom space. So we had 150,000 square feet of this meeting and ballroom space. And some of the programs, they would come to me with the planner that was on staff, and I could work with them, and they had it all together. And a lot of times I actually learned from them. But most of the time, I was working with a person who had a company and a dream, and I became their planner. So once I started understanding all the things that I didn't know, I had to really adopt the mentality that I may not know the answer, but I could find the person who does. And so once I kind of got over my fear of looking like an idiot and embracing being, new to something, the more I learned and the faster I learned, and the better I became at my job. I would spend hours, and I do mean hours, with our executive chef learning how to sell like different types of menus and, understand like when you would want to include a buffet instead of a box lunch or a plated dinner, or why some menu substitutions costed more money than other substitutions. I would sit with our food and beverage director, just trying to understand staffing and the flow of the space, that goes into each function whenever you set it up a certain way. I'd sit with our director of AV, just trying to understand all the basics and how the little tech pieces go together so that I could guide my clients more effectively through their presentation needs. And I'd even sit with other colleagues who were planning events that were bigger, or trade shows that were bigger than I was doing, just to kind of understand how to coordinate all these pieces better. Asking questions, I don't know, it's not always easy, but curiosity is the fuel that drives innovation and progress. So by asking questions, we gain insights, we broaden our perspectives, and we uncover hidden solutions. So questions, they challenge the status quo, they ignite conversations, and they create opportunities for collaboration. Just remember, whenever you're being interesting, it's all about you. When you're being interested, it's all about others. So I encourage you to embrace your curiosity. Never hesitate to ask more questions, because it's through questioning that we open the doors to new possibilities personally and professionally. All right, moving along. Lesson 3, understand the problem that needs to be solved. Ugh. I wish someone would have said this to me much earlier than when I learned it in my career. I actually heard Jay Shetty say this once on an Ed Mylett podcast. He said, "The scale at which you succeed is the depth of the problem you solve, and success comes from service." Now, I like to think of myself as a proven problem solver. I love challenges. I love figuring things out. I even enjoy collaborating with others to come up with the best solution. But when I first started solving problems, it was more about me showing you that I could do it and less about me understanding what you actually needed me to do. Before I understood the power of questions, the client would say, like, "I need a reception." And I would take that problem at face value, and I wouldn't go very deep into my questioning, and I would respond with like "Okay, you need a reception. No problem." I would kill myself to, get this to them, and I would ultimately hand them this kind of like blanket answer event that I would have to go through multiple revisions and countless hours of options and late nights on my part until the client would finally realize what they were trying to accomplish, could effectively communicate it to me, or really they would just give up and be like, "Screw it, I'll do it myself." I wasn't trying to understand the vision, the mission, or the purpose of the event. I was just wasting everyone's time, the client's and mine. Now, I build everything about their event around their ultimate goal and what they hope to accomplish. Like, I know that people think I am crazy when they tell me they want a reception or a dinner event, and I start asking all these questions like, "What would make this event successful in your eyes?" And of course, they're kind of like, I don't know, like, everyone's fed. Like, they don't understand that question. Or, I'll say, what do you want people to do when they walk in the room? Do you want them to go to the bar? Do you want them to go straight to a chair and sit down? Do you want them to talk to somebody? How do you want them to feel when they walk in the room? Like, I ask people these questions, and I'm sure they think I'm crazy. One of my favorite questions is when someone tells me they want a team building event, and I go, "Awesome, yeah. Like, what part of your team do you want to build? Trust, camaraderie, communication, leadership skills, empathy?" I mean, team building has kind of become such a buzzword in events that they've kind of forgotten that a team building event implies that you are indeed building something on your team. So the deeper my questions go to understand the real reason for the event and the client's expectations, the better service I can provide with my design options and the direction. So since I've been designing events with its purpose and intention in mind, now when we're working through the proposals, very rarely do we ever even get to a third revision. And if we do get to the third revision, it's usually just the final decision. So this same concept applies to any service-driven profession. Often we're too eager to jump into finding solutions without fully grasping the depth and complexity of the real problem at hand. So taking time to thoroughly understand the problem allows us to identify the underlying causes and consider various angles and develop more effective solutions. So let's embrace the art of problem solving by first seeking to understand before we seek to solve. All right, lesson 4. Find a mentor. This one's short. Hi, my name is Jess. I love to think that I could do it all by myself. And I guess, in a way, I have proven that you can learn and grow without seeking a mentor. But as I watch my senior events manager designing and doing things in this profession in her first year that took me 5 years to learn on my own, I realize how stupid I was for not seeking support and mentorship early on in my career, especially when I started the event planning company. Now, I know there's a lot of glory in it for yourself and building something with your own hands, but in the end, let me tell you, having a mentor will take you farther, faster, and with less heartache and headache than doing it by yourself. So, do yourself a favor, and even if it's just reading a book, taking an online course, watching YouTube video, listening to a podcast, find someone who is further along than you in whatever you are trying to do or grow and learn from them. Find a mentor. And lastly, the lesson that has been the hardest for me to learn, and I am still struggling through every day. Lesson number 5, get over yourself. Do not overestimate your own importance. I have already mentioned many times that I struggle with humility in my career, but I think the place that I've had to learn this lesson the hardest is in my marriage and in relationships. So I used to be so wrapped up in myself. If Will was ever having a bad day, I would think oh no, what did I do? Or if he wanted to have a conversation about dreams and places that he wanted to visit or see, I would think well, what about me? He knows I typically have events in October. Why would he want to go see Colorado in October? Why would he do that? I mean, I really made everything about me. And you know what? Not everything is about me. Plato, I read this beautiful quote, and I'm sure you have seen it at some point in your life, but he says, be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. And when you make everything, the way they look at you, the way they made you feel, the way that they said something to you, when you make it all about you, you fail to see past your own nose to other people's struggles and sorrows. And that can be a pretty lonely place. As I've been certifying in the Maxwell DISC leadership styles and learning others' love languages and communication styles every day, I am working hard to understand other people in a way that maybe they can't even see themselves. And if I could give you any encouragement, it would be to grow yourself in a way that allows you to see others first. Instead of immediately jumping to the defense when someone in your life snaps at you, or maybe just take a moment and think, you know what? I hadn't even spoken to this person today. That doesn't seem like it's about me. Man, I hope they're okay. And guess what? Ask them. I can't tell you how many times I feel like I've helped someone lighten their load just by letting them talk to me about how they are actually doing and asking questions, even if they are hard questions, even if they cry a little, just letting someone know that I want to connect and that I do care about them. I mean, when I've studied forgiveness, the phrase I like to repeat that Lisa Turkhurst says is that if you can't have compassion for the person, have compassion for their pain. And this phrase has really helped me get over myself and extend grace to others and the circumstances that they may be, that may be coming out in ways that have absolutely nothing to do with me. So finding compassion for their pain, even when I can't necessarily find compassion for that person. It's one of those big steps to forgiveness. there's a bonus lesson for you. What I see every day in myself and my team is that our ego and even our self-doubt, it can hinder our progress and limit our potential. I mean, it's essential to let go of our insecurities, our fears, and our preconceived notions about others and ourselves and our abilities. So by humbly accepting our shortcomings and embracing a growth mindset, we empower ourselves to take risks, learn from failures, have compassion for others, and ultimately achieve greater growth and connection with others. So, in conclusion, my friend, I hope that hearing some of my shortcomings in each of these lessons will put courage in you to start with what you know, so what you don't know can be revealed to you, to not be afraid to ask questions, to understand the problem that needs to be solved, to find a mentor, and most importantly, get over yourself. If you will embrace these principles with an open mind and a willingness to learn, I am confident that you will unlock limitless possibilities and embark on your own path to greatness. Thank you so much for listening.